What happens when everyday people in South London suddenly gain superpowers? Supercell season 1 finale left us with mind-blowing twists, shocking revelations, and questions that have us begging for more. Welcome to the Bin Zone, and on today's video, we're gonna break it all down. Now, for those of you who need a quick refresher, Supercell follows a group of everyday South Londoners who suddenly gain superpowers, facing new opportunities and new dangers. We have Michael, who's an everyday guy with a simple life. He goes to work, comes home, watches TV with his girlfriend, and looks after his mom. Then when he gains the power to time travel, he learns about a future that he has to stop from happening. So he suddenly gets his powers and he time travels into the future. He learns that his girlfriend is going to die, and he's fighting an evil group of other beings with superpowers, and he has to unite these other individuals to form this team of 5 so they can stop this future from happening. And most importantly, he can save his girlfriend Dion from dying. Then we have Sabrina, who's a nurse with telekinesis. Sabrina's story is that she is trying to get by in life and she's looking after her younger sister. And her younger sister gets involved with Crazy, who we find out also has superpowers and is a supervillain. So with Sabrina initially not wanting her powers, once she meets Michael and the rest of them, she starts to embrace it and she starts to realize she has a role to play in stopping bad things from happening. And then Crazy kidnaps her sister, getting her involved in the final battle in order to find her sister. Andre is a struggling single father with super strength, and he just needs money so he can keep custody of his son. Because he's an ex-felon, it's hard for him to get by, so he just gets mixed up with the wrong crowd. He's doing what he can for money, and the villains initially recruit him, and he's part of the hooded goons before he has a change of heart. Because deep down, Andre is a good and honest man who wants to just do right by his son. And also, he doesn't know that his son is also working for Crazy's gang, which leads to a whole new confrontation that's gonna happen in the second season. And we know you can't have a superhero show without super speed. That's where Rodney comes in. Rodney is the first one to profit off his powers. Rodney becomes a super speed drug dealer. He gets you your drugs in 5 minutes or less, or it's free. But because of that, he steps on Crazy's territory, and that brings him into the final battle as well, because they beat the dog shit out of his homeboy Spud. And Crazy, before we knew he had powers, was already dangerous. But the most dangerous character to me is Taser. Taser, to me, has the weakest power out of everyone thus far in the show, the ability to turn invisible. But what makes him dangerous is the fact that he's willing to kill. He's a seasoned killer, drug dealer, who's not afraid to slice people up in broad daylight and really get his hands dirty. And he's willing to go the extra step. And when you add the invisibility to it, he can do things others can't. He can take out targets, and he was going to use his powers to kill Crazy until we found out Crazy himself has powers, and he might be the second most powerful person after Michael. Because let's face it, mastery over space and time, Michael is the most powerful. I was going to give it to Sabrina second because telekinesis is out of this world, but Crazy has the ability to copy other people's powers. By itself, his power is useless, but because he's surrounded by all these super beings, if he can touch you, he can have your ability. So if Crazy is able to get his hands on Michael, combining Michael's powers with other powers, Crazy is the definition of overpowered. And the fact that Michael killed him and the company was still able to bring him back at the end to kill him again, I don't think he's dead, but that's a video for another time. But now we get to the final climactic battle. But the final battle itself is what changes the future. Because Michael was able to go into the future and see that Dion was going to die, him changing the events of the past creates an alternate future. But now Dion ends up dying before her time, so she died a lot earlier because he changed the events of what could happen. They found out the identities of the people in the hood. We found out Crazy had powers. All of this did not happen in the original timeline that Michael saw. So him doing all this entire final battle, the fact that Crazy actually killed them all and Michael had to rewind time again, thus changing the timeline again, shows us that two things are possible in the following seasons. One, Dion's not dead, and Michael is not necessarily traveling to his own future. He's traveling to alternate futures, because when he time traveled initially to the future he saw is not the future he lived, because now he changed the events, and therefore it's an alternate future. So the future he's going to now is going to be an alternate future than the one he saw before. And what if in that future Dion lives, sending Michael on the path of maybe going back to the past and thinking there's an alternate way to save her. And we find out Sabrina's sister Charlene is being kept by the company, and we don't think she has powers, but they are siblings. And if the Supercell gene exists in Sabrina, the possibility that it exists in Charlene also exists, because we see Taser's mom in the beginning. She got shot, but she also had powers. And we know there's a blood link between those who have powers and don't. And if they share the parent that has sickle cell, Charlene may have powers, but Sabrina has to save her sister. We find out at the end, Ray has a boss. He's not even the head honcho in charge. So this conspiracy goes deeper, because this conspiracy, if we look at the overall message of the company and what they're doing, the key is always Dion and her social work. She is the one that treats some of these characters. Heck, Sabrina also works with sickle cell patients. So we see that they're using the healthcare system to find their targets, and they have control over CCTV, cameras, and pretty much anything the government would have access to, they have access to. So this could be a deeper government conspiracy, and we always know how the medical field treats black people. That's why they're able to go through medical records and find potential targets and keep an eye out on them. And as soon as you get powers, they come after you, they run experiments on you. And the more valuable your ability is, the more likely they're gonna keep you in the cell. And if they can use you as muscle, they're gonna enlist you, brainwash you against your own kind. That's why we see that they're never releasing the girl with the healing powers. When her father is looking for her, they know the location, but they were never letting her go. She's too valuable of an asset. And if they can get their hands on Michael, mastery over space and time, I think that's why Victoria ends up stepping up, because Michael is too much of a valuable asset to leave in Ray's hands. And that's why she shows up in the end. But because of Sabrina's job, she's the closest to discovering the connection of it all. Sabrina and Victoria are on a clash, not just because they're women, but because their worlds are most likely to intersect. And finally with Taser. Taser is now king of the streets. With Crazy out the picture, Taser now has control over the gangs, because who's gonna step to him now? Of course, there is the remnants of Crazy's gang that is also dealing with Andre's son AJ. So that can also put Taser and Andre on a clash, because if AJ is on the side of the ops, we know Taser don't give a fuck. He's gonna kill you if you're part of the ops. He don't care if you're Andre's son or not. That's gonna put him and Andre in direct clash in the following season. All while Michael's in the future gathering intel and learning about an alternate way to save Dion. But guys, that's just my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it in the comment section below. And if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and until next time, binge on.